everyone. Justin Henderson here with Vetonomics. Thank you for attending our 14th episode of Vetonomics. I'm really excited about this episode specifically. Our guest, Mike Johnson, is from Applied Materials, former Marine. If you've been following what's happening in Congress and Senate lately, you'll know about the CHIPS Act that went through, helping us bring semiconductor production back to the United States. Mike and his company, Applied Materials, is really tip of the spear when it comes to that. So I think the timing for this, for him being a guest, couldn't be better. And also with the jobs report that came out this morning, I'm not sure if anybody's seen it yet, but it blew away everybody's expectations. I'm really, really excited to go through that, especially because last month, if you watched, we talked about inflation and where that was affecting us, as well as where we looked at inflation as the United States compared to the rest of the world, because it was a wave of inflation that went across. There's some good data coming out of that too. So far, this report today looks really positive. So I'm really excited to walk through it. And again, August 2022 report. Sean, thanks for putting together the nice PowerPoint for us. Looks great. What's really interesting is we are down to 3.5% unemployment rate nationally. That gives you about 5.7, 5.5 million people looking for work. What's really intriguing is we're still saying at that 2.7. You know, we had, I think it was in April, veteran unemployment dipped down to 2.4%, which was unheard of, never happened before. And then now we're sitting at that 2.7, which we've been sitting pretty consistently. For those that are wondering, February 2020 veteran unemployment was 3.5%. So me personally, if I'm looking at this, what do I think? Hey, we're built to help our country, right? Either foreign or domestic. When our country says we need help, we're there to help. And that's really what I see out of this report as I continue to look. All right, if we can actually break down the numbers. This is what's really intriguing. 528,000 new jobs were created last month. 5.9 million people unemployed right now. February 2020 was 5 million. So what we're seeing too is there's actually more people entering the labor market. This is weird to think about. Remember, there are people out there that don't have to work. Maybe it's in your mid 50s, or you saved enough money, you were financially conscious that you have money to enjoy yourself and not have to work. But maybe you want to work sometimes. So we're seeing that community, be whatever age group they are or whatever background, that they're starting to enter the market more than they were before, which is pretty interesting. You may have heard on the news there were some reductions in staffing. What I've seen, like Robinhood and some of those tech-savvy companies that really enjoyed, as we were forced indoors and looking for something to entertain us, we started engaging. You're seeing that right sizing come in already. You think about, we were a service-based economy, restaurants, hotels, right, entertainment-based economy, movie theaters. COVID forced us indoors. We started buying more things from Amazon, Walmart. We started day trading, whatever you wanted to do. You engaged more technology. Well, now we're starting to get back into reality. We're leaving the metaverse and going back to human and human contact. And you're going to see that in today's jobs report. Again, last jobs report, 370,000 new jobs. Over 300 and some thousand were in the service-based side of the economy. That's where we're going. So back to pre-COVID unemployment levels, that's great. But here's the interesting point. Not everybody follows the labor force participation rate, but it really shows what percentage of our economy is working. The unemployment rate shows you what percentage of the economy is looking for work that's not getting work. But labor force participation shows you the whole picture. So here's what's interesting. We were at 63.4% in February 2020. We're only at 62.1% right now, but we've hit those numbers of pre-COVID. So what it shows me is we have more people entering the market, which is interesting. And what it could be that increase at the bottom, right? The joke is, if you're making minimum wage, what is your employer telling you? If I could pay you less, I would, but the government's stopping me. But what we're seeing now, the supply demand has changed, right? The employees have the upper hand, and that's raising that bottom compensation, which I think is what's bringing more people, that marginalized group, into the market. You'll see we have about 1.5 million marginalized workers. Still change month over month. Those are the people that, I talk about the creative destruction economy. When the ATM was created, bank tellers lost their jobs. There's still some bank tellers, but not nearly at the numbers before the ATM. COVID did that across the entire world, and companies, different industries across the world, across the country. So there are people that were in that skill set that are no longer needed, that are trying to retool themselves and find work. So that's why you're going to hear hiring authorities say, hey, nobody wants to work, or I can't find anybody to work. And why you're going to hear people looking for jobs, nobody wants to interview me, nobody wants to hire me. It's because we have a skill mismatch right now, demand versus supply. But that's going to right size the next 16 to 24 months. It's just going to take time. So again, going through where this number has been, the majority of hiring, leisure and hospitality, healthcare, professional business services, construction still continuing to hire, which is great. It's actually above pre-COVID numbers, so that's good. We'll go into the apprenticeships going on in the United States today and see how that affects both manufacturing and construction, because really outside of transitioning military, the only way to get that technical blue collar, right, wrench turning talent is from apprenticeships. Part-time work has increased about 303,000 to about 3.9 million. That's still below February 2020. So again, I think these are all really good indicators of the market. I'd mentioned last month, we had a white hot labor market, and inflation and Fed increasing those points, adding the points, was actually suppressing that and going to bring that inflation down, but also it was going to turn that from white hot to red hot job market. And you're seeing with all those raises in interest rate, the market's still showing, hey, we've got more energy to burn. What's really also interesting is 22 million jobs brought back to the economy since COVID hit. That's 630,000 net gain. So there's more people entering the market. That bottom level compensation increase, right? The floor has risen in this country significantly, and that is bringing more people back to the market. So that's good. Average hourly earning, this is really something I like to target. So it's private, non-farm payroll jobs, $32.27 an hour. That's up 15 cents from last month. And then you have production, non-supervisory, like manufacturing jobs. They're averaging $27.57 an hour. So year over year, we're about 5.2% increase, which is really, again, really good. And it's bringing people back into the market. That's what we have to do. We have to entice people to come back. And we're seeing it. What I really, really like to see was, I said this in last month, inflation affects everybody. Recession affects those that were laid off. There is no real good decision. It's just how to mitigate risk. And with the Fed increasing so aggressively, I feel like they've really put some weight on inflation, and we're starting to see that already. We had 2 months ago the lowest mortgage application rate in, I forget how many years, it was decades. But now here we see it, right? Again, supply demand. The mortgage rates have dropped to below 5% for the first time since April. So we're at 4.99, but it still counts. So it was it was June. So it was a 13-year high in June, 5.81%. So we're even starting to see that, hey, that indicator is starting to work out for us. So all in all, we're looking good. We're still down, I think it's about 5 million homes across the United States. So residential constructions continue to build. We're going to see capital continue to get cheaper again. So I think just like COVID, most recessions and shifts in the economy are longer, a year, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. But COVID shut our doors so fast in February, then opened them back up and shut them. I think these inflation indicators, all these shifts that we see happen extremely fast because of the accordion effect that COVID had put through us the last 2.5, 3 years. So all positive news so far. Again, going down to the June numbers, or really July numbers, my fault, didn't change that one. But you'll see just what we talked about. Leisure and hospitality, education, health services coming back. Again, they had a large purge through COVID, but they're coming back strong. Professional services continue to grow. But I really like, you see at the top, construction and manufacturing. we build things again, and we're continuing to build things again, which is critically important. So seeing that manufacturing construction is growing is really good. Transportation and warehousing, the distribution centers, truck drivers, over the road trucking, they're continuing to hire. But you're also seeing that they're shifting where they're hiring, they're laying off, because some of those larger distribution centers aren't as necessary as they were a year ago. So you're going to see that shift continue to happen, but just focus on the leisure and hospitality, those professional services, and you'll see us move back into that service economy who we are. So again, all in all, what we expected, just to me, twice the numbers I expected. I expected 225,000 jobs. So to see over 500,000 was pretty wild. So I want to introduce Mike. Mike Johnson, he's the Director of Field Service Operations at Applied Materials. He's a former Marine. He's been there 24 years. And really, he wants to come here and talk to you about why he transitioned out into that industry, why he spent his entire career in that industry, and what they're looking to do, this organization, as an industry leader in bringing semiconductor production back to the United States, and why veterans want to come there. But before I bring him on camera, I found a pretty neat video. It's about 2 minutes. It's actually from the semiconductor lobbying arm, and it's really interesting. So if we could play that real quick, and then we'll bring Mike in after the video.
In a year of change, one thing remained constant: the importance of the semiconductor. While the world continued to grapple with the global pandemic, semiconductor-enabled technologies allowed us to remotely work, study, treat illness, order goods online, and stay connected. As much of the planet shut down, semiconductors kept the world moving. And they helped begin making the world healthy again. Without the semiconductors that power the world's most advanced supercomputers, the unprecedented rapid development of COVID-19 vaccines would not have been possible. Despite very strong chip production in 2021, the world was confronted by a widespread global semiconductor shortage. The semiconductor industry worked hard to keep pace by substantially increasing production. In fact, by the middle of 2021, more semiconductors were shipped on a monthly basis than at any point in history. This shortage has cast a light on the critical importance of semiconductors and the need to strengthen domestic chip production and innovation over the long term. The governments of other countries have realized the importance of supporting domestic manufacturing and readily offer incentives. The US government has taken notice. Leaders in Washington are considering broad competitiveness legislation, including $52 billion to bolster domestic chip manufacturing, research, and design, as well as a semiconductor investment tax credit, policies SIA has been strongly championing. Now's the time to get these critical initiatives across the finish line. Government and industry must work together to usher in a resurgence of domestic innovation and leadership, to fortify our national security and allow our digital economy to thrive. Together, we can help realize a bright future built on semiconductors.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that was motivating. I know when I found it this morning, I really smiled and was excited. And if we could bring Mike on, that would be great. But for me, the big thing is, we talked about pre-COVID unemployment for veterans, 3.5%. Now it's 2.7. Hey, when the country needs us, we raise our hand. And it looks like the CHIPS Act is going to ask us for more. And that's why I brought Mike on. Mike, pleasure to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yep, super excited to be here. So
good. Well, no, I wanted to, if you wouldn't mind, is kind of give us a quick review of your Marine Corps experience, and then tell us about how you transitioned out and how you ended up at Applied Materials. It's a great story, especially when you bring your gunny into it. So I think the team should hear it.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, it's been a few years since I've been active duty, right? I was a Gulf War era guy, right? So, I got super fortunate, or I was super fortunate when I received my MOS. 6492, for those of you that doesn't mean anything to, is a calibration technician, avionics. So went to school in Lowry Air Force Base, and then got stationed in Southern California, got deployed a bunch of places, right? Had a great time. But the military, the Marine Corps, afforded me the opportunity to get some really solid training. Um, and I did 6 years on my initial enlistment. And as I neared the end of my enlistment, I started looking for, hey, you know what? I need to get a job. I need to get out and be productive. And this was way before social media, right? So looking for a
Yeah.
job was old school. Print out some resumes, look through the newspaper or whatever, right? Try to find jobs.
Fax
Um,
blast.
yeah,
Send out
exactly,
faxes.
right. Faxes. Who knows what a fax is these
I
days,
know,
right?
right?
So I was pretty fortunate, and I found a position doing exactly what the Marine Corps had trained me to do, was working in a calibration lab. And as I was stationed in Southern California, the position that I found was with JPL in Pasadena, right? So Jet Propulsion
Mhm.
Laboratory. I went, interviewed, multiple interviews, got a job offer, actually signed it, said, hey, I'm going to start, but I was still on active duty. I had about 2 months left. And at the time, they were okay with waiting, right, for me to get out. And so, man, I thought I was set. I said, man, I got it all figured out. But I was basically going to do the exact same job that I was doing in the Marines for JPL, which was fine. And then my gunny came to me one day, and he was also getting out at the same time after 20 plus years. And he said, hey, Johnson, I'm going to this hiring event. Why don't you come along with me? And I said, no, gunny, I'm okay. I already have a job. And he said, oh, look, come on. It's a couple days off of work, right? We go to this all day, 2-day hiring event. And I said, okay, fine. So got my suit together and my resumes and went to this
Yeah.
job hiring event. And they put me in front of a bunch of different companies that I would never have even considered interviewing with. And about half the interviews that I even sat in, I said, hey, why do you even want to talk to me? Like I'm trained to be a calibration technician, but
Yep.
you're willing to talk to me about working in semiconductor. And I said, now listen, I'm an electronics guy. I know what a semiconductor is, but what exactly do you guys do? Oh no, we build the machines that build semiconductors, and you have the fundamental skills that we're looking for. And at the end of it, I wound up taking a job with Applied Materials, and I had to go back to JPL and say, hey guys, I'm really sorry. This was a good opportunity that you guys gave me, but this other one, wow, was just bizarre because I had never even considered it. And so I really, I owe a lot to that gunny, right, for
Yep.
dragging me out and broadening my horizons. And so, my transition experience, and if there's anything that I can share with those that are getting out or have gotten out, is you learn a lot in the military, not only just the MOS trade that they gave you, but you have a lot of skills that employers are looking for today, and you got to figure out how to translate that from military jargon to civilian world, right? And it's not just the word for word translation, it's really focusing on the skills and capabilities that you may have learned and acquired through your military experience that are applicable in the civilian world. And I didn't do that. Like I said, I just was like, oh, I have this skill. I'll go find a job that has these exact skill requirements. But my gunny
Yep.
is the one that broadened my horizons and said, hey, you need to look out here. There's a lot more opportunities out there that you may not have even be aware of. And I passed that along to all the other Marines that I was serving with, that, hey, you don't
Yeah.
have to just go out and get a job in the career field that we're currently in. And then today, as a hiring manager, I look for that as well. And I do talk to a lot of candidates that are like, well, I'm not sure I'm qualified for this job. And I'm
Mm.
like, yeah, believe it or not, you're more qualified than you realize, right? And so that's the main message that I wanted to get out and share today, was that you broaden your horizons, look at the fundamental skills and capabilities that you have, and how do you market that? Because that's what employers are looking for. Nobody is going to come out of the military and be trained to work in semiconductor, because there is
Yeah.
no semiconductor MOS in any branch of the
You're right.
service, right?
Exactly.
Um, and we will train you, right? If you have the fundamental skills, we will train you on the specifics of what's required for the job that we're hiring for. But we are looking for those fundamental skills, capabilities, the ability to work independently, problem solving, not
All the
strong
human
work
skills.
ethic. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That the
So,
military, so I watched someone on LinkedIn yesterday, was somebody about the on off switch, and like on, like being aggressive and like focused. And I said, my switch turned on in Paris Island.
yeah,
Boom. And it hasn't gone off, right? There's something about military service that changes you.
yeah,
And what you said about us being more better fits for roles than we understand is true. What I really like what you said about your gunny was, in a nice way, you said, you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. Let's come here and look at this.
Right.
And I'll tell you, to the veterans that are job seekers now watching, even what you said in your interview, I hear all the time. Well, let me show you all my deficits, right? Because that's what we're used to doing, especially Marines. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yep.
So you're looking for that link and go, hey, I found that link. What do we do about it? Mm-hmm. And as a military person, that's what we do. But when you have a civilian interviewer going, okay, this person doesn't know this, doesn't know that, doesn't know this, you end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting what you brought up. So if you're a veteran job seeker listening, know that you're in the room for a reason for an interview. And you really want to focus on your strengths. They'll identify trainable facts, right? What they can train on you. But I think that stood out to me too. And it's funny, what was that, 95 or 97 that you went through?
Yeah, 97. Yep.
97. So yeah, those 2-day hiring events, that was created out of Vietnam.
Yeah.
That's when those are, so it's wild that even today there's companies doing that, because the only person worse than corporate America at defining transferable skills out of the military is the military veteran. Right. So, we always say veteran recruiting's a contact sport. You just have to have the conversations, and that goes both ways. The hiring manager has to have an open mind, but the veterans, you guys transition males and females getting out, right? You've got to have an open mind, and say, hey, where can I fit? What do I want to do? What aspirations? So really good. And then you've been there for almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah. Yep.
What made you stay so long? What's keeping you there?
Well, yeah, first of all, it's a really great company that I work for. Obviously, I've been here a long time. We are an industry leader in what we do, but it's been an exciting journey, extremely innovative company, right? Nobody knows who Applied Materials is, right, for the most part. But we make the machines and make computer chips, right? So we're making machines for companies like Intel, Samsung, yeah, TSMC is my customer. We'll maybe talk about that a little later.
Yep.
And so most people might recognize Intel. Oh, we know who Intel is, right? But Applied Materials, because we're so far removed from the actual consumer, nobody really knows who we are. But we have to be, if you think about it this way, if Intel's designing a new chip, right? In order to design and manufacture that chip, my company, we have to make a machine that's 2 steps ahead of them, right? In order to make the machine that makes the chip that goes into your computer, right? Or into the server or into your cell phone, right? So very innovative company, first of all. And you use the tip of the spear analogy, right? It always cracks me up, right? But it is true for Applied Materials. The other thing, a few other things about Applied Materials, it's a very versatile company. We are global, right? We have positions all over the world, and we have lots of different opportunities. So once I got in with the company and I realized, wow, they really value their employees. They value your input, and in the innovative process, right? How to solve problems, and they've afforded me tremendous opportunities. The other thing that's worked well for me is that I've been flexible, right? And I think you had it on my bio screen, right? Since I've been with Applied Materials, I can say I've been stationed in multiple places, right? Northern California, Southern California, Arizona, Virginia. So I've been flexible to move around as opportunities arise. And that works in a couple of ways, right? Not everybody has to be flexible. You don't have to move around. I have colleagues that have been with the company as long, if not longer, and have been here. I'm in Arizona, by the way. That have been here in Arizona for 25 years, the entire time, right? But they have the opportunity, if a different position opens up or they want to try something new or a different location, the company will accommodate that, right? They'll relocate you, they'll retrain you, they'll do whatever. So very powerful and flexible in that way, right? So that's one of the reasons I've stayed with the company.
Well, and yeah, the tip of the spear, right? That video, and we're going to go into the CHIPS Act now about it, but I think for somebody like me, I joined because I knew 17-year-old me needed some discipline. I knew that, but 2, there was a calling, right? And I think a lot of us just sensed something that attracted us to our service, and now here we are again, and like the video alluded to, this is a way to serve your country and have a good career, because we understand the national security aspect of what you do. If we could pull up, there we go. I just wanted to talk about the CHIPS Act. It's coming through. We talked about it. You and I, Mike, we talked about it yesterday. $52 billion going into semiconductor manufacturing incentives, research investments, tax credits, really bringing semiconductors manufacturing back to the United States. What fact, for the audience, Mike asked me a question yesterday. What percentage of semiconductors that we use are manufactured here in the United States? My educated guess was 13. I was darn close. It's 12. So, and it was at 37 just 30 years ago. And I think we see the need to bring them back. For the audience, in the comments section, we're going to give you a minute. I'll come back with the answer. What is the number of semiconductors inside of an automobile right now? Is that the question, right, Mike?
Yep.
Yep. So put your best guess in the comments, and then at the end of the show, we'll give you an answer. But it's fact. I don't think anybody's going to be close. I was nowhere near it. But Mike. So when you look at the information here in front of us, what is that impact? Not just with Applied. What's the impact that this is going to do? Do you guys see? Okay, this is going to give you some breathing room to grow, to hire, to innovate. So Applied specifically, and then generally with the industry, do you have any insights?
Yeah. So a simple way to describe it is we in the semiconductor industry and specifically Applied Materials, we're experiencing unprecedented growth, especially in North America, but even globally right now. Growth that the industry has never really seen before, right? And as you mentioned, with the manufacturing over the last 30 years having been moved overseas, right, and wanting to pull that back into the United States, it's actually staggering, right? When you look at how many factories are being built in the United States right now, or planned to be built in the next year or two. And each one of those factories needs to be filled with equipment, right? And in order to fill it with equipment, we need people to build the equipment. We need people to service the equipment, right? We need people to train the customer, right? So, and then there's a whole bunch of other logistics stuff that go behind it, spare parts and moving things around back and forth. So a simple answer, Justin, is it's really unprecedented growth. And it's just the sheer number of resources that are going to be needed to accomplish these tasks, right? Of building equipment, installing equipment, maintaining equipment, and supporting our customers. I mean, if you just did the straight math from 12% to 37%, what percentage increase is that, right? It's more than double, almost triple growth rate. So that's just in the manufacturing numbers, and then you have all the infrastructure and support, and that's where we come in. Has to increase at that rate, right, or higher, or faster.
Yeah. I'm going to look after this and see if I can find the number of citizens currently employed in the industry right now, and multiply that by 3. If all things average, right? Oh my gosh. Plus the construction, they have to build these plants and everything else. And then, like you mentioned, the field service to work on them, which we're going to walk through later today, which is pretty neat.
And it's not going to slow down. So I don't know, like I said, if anyone's done any research in semiconductor, over the last 4 or 5 decades, the industry has been a bit cyclical. When it's hot, and then it slows down, and it's not. There is no slowdown in sight right now.
That's a great point.
This is a 10, 20-year investment, right? That the customers are making, that my company and my competitors are making in U.S. manufacturing. There's no slowdown, right? It's just a steady increase.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. So, that being said, we're talking about, you have a large field service team that's going to grow. You have equipment maintenance technicians. You have facility maintenance technicians. They're going to maintain the plant. But all this is technical. This isn't a bachelor's degree in economics. This is a journeyman electrician. This is a micro miniature repair electronics tech. These are industrial mechanics. These are those people.
Right.
And so I've been following the apprenticeships throughout the United States for a while. And we're starting to see that uptick. And, the dip in 2020 was just COVID. I mean,
Right.
everybody didn't know what to do. You couldn't have a bunch of people working on equipment next to each other. So you see it already starting to go up in 2021. I have, there is the Department of Labor and Department of Defense built the Advanced Defense and Manufacturing group, where they get non-technical, like motor T guys or infantry guys, and teach them how to be technicians in manufacturing, and then they deploy them to organizations that have national security. So it could be the L3, the Northrop Grumman's, but I think it's going to come into the semiconductor really quick next year because of the national security to it. So you're going to see not just the overall civilian and private entity and apprentices pick up. You're going to see the government's hand come in here much stronger. So it's really interesting to see this. And out of this number, you're going to get, I think they said about 140,000 new graduates this year, and 41,000 of those are residential electricians. So out of all the manufacturing costs the country is hiring, that gives you 100,000 maybe.
Yeah.
So it gives you an idea why veteran unemployment's 2.7% instead of the 3.5 it was before COVID, right? It's just a need. And didn't you say that Applied is working to kind of do that as well, to kind of find their own way of helping people find a path into Applied?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. So, I mean, we're here today talking about military recruiting, right? But in addition to that, Applied Materials is investing in local communities in the areas that we have facilities. So our headquarters is in Santa Clara, San Jose, California. One of our main manufacturing facilities, Austin, Texas. But we have customers in Arizona, the greater Phoenix area. We have customers in the Pacific Northwest and the Portland area. Upstate New York, around just north of Albany. We have Dallas, Texas. There's quite a few different locations. And so what we're doing is we're going to the local schools in those locations, community colleges, technical schools, and we're investing in pipelines to build the resources that we need, right? Basic electronics, basic mechanics, and so, and we're even going to some of the technical schools, automotive institutes, and things of that nature, and offering, I don't want to put any actual numbers out there, but, we're offering things like scholarships, right? Or working with the local community colleges or technical schools to make sure that they have the right programs in place, whether they're degree programs or certificate programs, to build the pipeline of resources that are going to be needed. Now that's going to take, a year and a half, 2 years before those pipelines are really flowing. And that's why military recruiting is so important to us as well. If we find candidates that have some fundamental technical skills, we can train them, like I said, on how to work on a semiconductor piece of equipment. But it's finding those foundational skills, right? So yes, we are investing across the country in a lot of different communities to build those pipelines, because, like I said, this isn't going to stop anytime soon.
Right, and you see, right, there's the numbers. We had those up while you answered that, just to show them, because we'd covered it already. Yeah. But when you look at the actual technology they're going to engage, one, you saw it in the video, but on the next slide, you're going to see a little bit of the equipment here that you're looking at. But also, if you're a non-technical veteran that sees the value in getting that education, I think what Mike said is important, because it's not just Applied Materials. Manufacturing companies across the country are doing this around all their sites. So go to your local community college or engage your local community college and see if they have that. And if they don't have that trade-based training already instilled there, they're going to have the right people to refer you to, because they probably get that question frequently. So if you're looking to upskill, which really is on corporate America's hands now, they have to upskill the populace. You go look at those trade schools, but look for these type of partnerships, because I'm seeing them pop up all over the country.
Yeah, and on that topic, Justin, right? I want to throw something out, another personal experience, right? So I've been out of the service for a while, and I was a knucklehead and did not use my GI Bill that I put money into, right?
Yeah.
And when I finally decided, hey, I need to do something with this, I went and they said, oh, you missed it by a year, right? I was under the old school GI Bill, right? From my understanding, the 9/11 GI Bill benefits are much more lucrative. So I
Yeah.
encourage anyone on the phone listening, please, please, please go use those. And you don't have to go get a bachelor's or master's degree, right?
Yeah.
Use it for one of these technical certificates or degrees. And in addition to that, our company and most of the companies, whether it's my customers or competitors, have very lucrative tuition assistance programs, right? So with my company, we have a tuition reimbursement program. You have to front the money up front, but if you pass the class, you get the money back, right? So
Yeah.
please, go after these opportunities. And like I said, you don't have to go get a degree in electrical engineering, right? Go
Yeah.
look for the technical community college degrees and pursue that. That's get the foundations down, and then pursue an opportunity. We'll teach you how to work on this stuff right here in front of you, right?
Yep.
So,
And what's interesting is because higher education was so highlighted for so long, we were getting industrial electricians, motivated industrial electricians or electricians coming out of the military with an electrical engineering degree,
hmm
and they're taking the electrician job over the engineer role.
yeah,
More money. They don't have to sign anything, right? They don't have
yeah,
to put their name to a design that could get
yeah,
them. And so it's been really interesting to watch this shift, because when I started in 2006, if you had an electrical engineering degree, you could write a ticket anywhere,
yeah.
and now if you know 483 phase,
hmm
you can write a ticket anywhere.
yeah.
It's wild to see how it shifts like that. But definitely good talking points, and especially as far as that local community finding trade-based training is really important.
Yeah. Oh, and
We also,
I'm gonna throw one
yeah,
thing
go ahead.
out there too, Justin. You keep mentioning like electricians. Electricians, great career, great opportunity. But I will tell you, like living here in Phoenix, it's 110 degrees, and wiring houses is a little tough. Semiconductor is all performed inside of a clean room environment, 72 degrees year round, humidity controlled. You don't go home with grease under your fingers, so
Yeah,
it's a nice clean room environment. So just throwing that out there, something to think
yeah,
about. So
yeah. Hey, I right there's my attic.
yeah,
I was up there. It was 128 degrees. I was working on my HVAC system this weekend, so I totally understand what you're talking about. Makes sense.
yeah.
And hey, it's interesting. We talked about kind of the semiconductor industry and revenue and kind of where we see it going.
hmm
And I found this chart. Well, you gave me this chart,
yeah.
and it's really interesting. Do you want to walk through what we're looking at?
Yeah, yeah,
Is this something
absolutely.
you're? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So really what this is kind of showing is industry wide, right? Not just applied materials, but if we go all the way back to the 90s, where were semiconductors used? What was the volume of the market? What did it look like, right? And so
Mhm.
there was a milestone in 1990, right? It was all focused on PCs, right? Selling computers, desktop computers, right? The birth of the internet,
Yeah.
right? All that kind of stuff. And then things progressed in early 2000, right? Smartphones hit the market, so that's really where a lot of the demand for semiconductors started to shift. So you
Yeah.
still had a huge need for PCs, but now it was like, wow, Blackberries, iPhones, all that kind of stuff. So the industry was focused on that. And as time marched on, we moved out of the PC internet phase into more of the mobility. So not just mobility of smartphones, but mobility of everything, right? Um, you
Your
know, uh,
Alexa.
yeah, your Alexa, your tablets, your car, right? Think about everyone's cars now. It started with OnStar, right? But now
Yeah.
my car tells me, hey, it's time for an oil change. I get a text, right, from my car, right? So a lot of the
Yeah.
and then machine learning, right? And machine learning is interesting, right? This is massive computer power, right? Data server farms, right? Is
Mhm.
where a lot of that
Oh yeah.
what's been driving that lately. Just down the street from my house where I live here in Arizona, Apple has a gigantic server farm. Facebook's putting in a server farm. Everything's on the cloud, so all those servers have millions of chips in them, right? So that's what's been driving the industry lately. Well, now we're moving into what we're calling the fourth era of semiconductor, and you see that blue triangle section, and it's look at the slope of that line as compared to the
Yeah.
last 30 years. What's driving this now, and what this chart is talking about is IoT and AI, right? So
Mhm.
we in the semiconductor industry love our acronyms more than the military does, right? And so if you thought there were
Yep.
a lot of acronyms when you're in the service, there's a lot more here. So IoT is Internet of Things, right? That's anything that's connected to the internet. And what a lot of people overlook is thermostat in your house, right? Your Ring
Yep.
doorbell. These are considered Internet of Things, right? You connected it
Mhm.
to your Wi-Fi in your house so that you can see something on your phone. Well, that is traveling through the internet, right? So all of those things require chips. And then the next big driver is AI, artificial intelligence, right?
Yep.
Machines actually running very complex algorithms to solve problems at a very high rate of speed. And those high rates of speed require massive computing power, which all requires processors, memory chips, all that kind of stuff. So those are the two big drivers that we see right now and not slowing down. And you had mentioned the car thing, and we'll get to that later, right? But that's also a huge driver, right? And,
Eh,
and so what this chart is saying is that the demand for chips is just not slowing down, right? And there's been different phases of what's driven that in the past, from computers to cell phones, to machine learning, to now Internet of Things and AI. They call it big data. So
Yep. Well, so you mentioned the cars. We're talking about this spike. I think it's time to give the team an answer. We've had
okay,
some close guesses. I've been looking.
yeah,
Um, somebody was the closest guess. I have to, but go. You give the answer.
yeah.
How much?
So it's
What's the average?
the average right now is about 3,500, right? Chips per car. And so I think
Yep.
somebody, Victor, actually called out
Yep.
3,000 plus, right? So
Yep.
very, very good. If you
Well
do a
done.
Google search on that, you will see lots of different variations on it. Some articles say 100 to 150. Well, that's 100 to 150 modules is what they're saying, not actual chips.
Ah,
Inside that module, there's a heck of a lot more chips. So yeah, the 3,000 guess is pretty darn close, right? And when you
wow.
think about it in the car, it's not just the brains of the car, it's the ABS system, it's the airbag system, it's the lights, it's the radio, it's the display that you have in the car, all these things, everything's got chips in it. So great guess,
Well,
Victor.
yeah. Even your tires, right?
Yeah,
There's something
dude.
monitoring the pressure of your
Yep.
tires now.
Yep,
It's
exactly.
everything.
Hmm.
Wow. I wanted to show kind of where the organization's putting investments and really kind of show a little bit more of the footprint. Anything you want to cover there um, to for the audience?
Yeah, just this is really more focused towards investors in applied materials and understanding how we invest, and we're invest 2.5 billion dollars right in 2021. So we have R&D facilities in Santa Clara and in Taiwan and in New York, and as I mentioned, for all of our customers, let me also make a statement. Any company that's making a computer chip in the world has at least one of our machines in it, and oftentimes several hundred of our machines in it. So in order for
Wow.
them to make the next generation computer chip, we've got to design machines that can do that, right? So that's why we have a lot of these research and development centers. We'll design a machine or a chamber, and we'll have the customer come to us with their requirements. Hey, we want to make a chip that does this, that, and the other. And so these research and development centers will actually run experiments collaborating with the customer to say, oh, did that make the results that you want? No, no, that didn't. Okay, so we'll go back and redesign the system a little bit to try to meet their needs. So that's really what this slide is all about, and it's global, right?
Okay. And what I want to show somebody, because you mentioned the research and development center, um, and I want to jump to 13 if we can, real quick. We'll come back to
Sure.
12,
Yeah.
but 13 is really neat.
Hmm.
So for the technicians, what we're looking at here, it's augmented reality headsets. So what you're seeing is a technician with an augment AR headset on, and she's talking to an engineer that designed that piece of equipment. So that engineer is seeing what the technician is seeing. That
Hmm.
technician is getting the advice from the person that designed that piece of equipment on how to fix it. So if you're working a different inside a not an OEM, but maybe a fab or something else, you're not going to get that level. You're not going to talk to the person that actually designed that piece of equipment. So this is really interesting. Is there anything you wanted to talk about with this specific? Because it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. So HoloLens is the type of AR goggles that we're using at Applied Materials. There are a couple different out there on the market. I encourage you guys to anyone that's on the call, just go to YouTube and type in HoloLens. It's made by Microsoft, but it's a technology that we've deployed in field service, and it takes things to the next level, right? The
It
little
is.
screenshot on the bottom right, I mean, that's almost exactly how it looks. So the person that you see, the picture in the picture, it's floating in virtual reality, if you will. That's what you would see
Yep.
from inside the goggles, right? And they can
Wow.
pull up drawings, schematics, procedures, and you can place them virtually all around you. And then you can talk to the person on the other side, and they can say, "Hey, you see that big red button on the upper right?" And when you reach your hand up to go touch it, they'll, "No, not that red button, the other one." "Oh, okay, right." And so
That's
you get
yeah.
real time tech support, and that's extremely powerful with the complexity of the equipment that we work on. Even getting field service engineers trained, they always need assistance, right? And to have that real time assistance where they can see what you're seeing, talk to you, and walk you through something, it's just unreal. It's amazing. So,
Yeah, it really is. And I tell you, I watched that video twice this morning
yeah.
because it was so fascinating just to go, okay, cool, what's this do? So yeah, Microsoft Remote Assistant, HoloLens demo video, type it into Google, it'll pop it right up. One last slide is just again, just that top line of Applied,
Mhm.
5 billion in revenue, walking through all these numbers just to show the
So
audience.
yeah, and this, Justin, actually is not all of Applied Materials. This is just the service division within Applied Materials. Is that 5 billion in revenue, right? And this just talks about how many service engineers we have. So I think on a previous slide you showed there's over 27,000 Applied Materials employees. In the service
Yep.
division, there's over 6,000 engineers, right? We have over
Okay.
45,000 tools installed all around the world, 170 locations. And it just speaks to this is not a fly-by-night company, right? It's been around a while, right? We are the industry leader in what we do, and we're everywhere, right? And there are, as I mentioned before, unprecedented growth not only in North America but globally.
Mhm.
And there are opportunities, and uh, we're not going to slow down. We're not slowing down at all.
No, especially we've got the CHIPS Act coming through. I mean, we've got demand through the roof. I work with automobile suppliers that are waiting
Mhm.
on chips from your clients. So,
Yeah,
like you said, it's going to be the next 10 years. And when you say the word engineer, field engineers,
yeah,
to the people listening, this doesn't mean you have a mechanical or electrical engineering degree.
right.
You can transition it without your degree right into this role, get training, and grow quickly. Um, And just to wrap it up, because I know we're kind of on the end of this time. Uh, if you're following the news and you see that the war games that are being played in China around Taiwan, it's almost blockade level at the port where they're at. So, as a military person, when you're seeing this, you really should understand that if you go into this industry, that you are still serving your country, right? This is a strategic need for us. And it's not because it's a strategic need for the country, the funding is going to stay going. So like Mike said, this is a full career to get into. And Applied is making the adjustments needed to help upskill those people that need it. Plus they have hiring managers like Mike in the seat that are open-minded. They're, hey, we will find you. If you've got the soft skills, the human skills, and the cornerstone experience that we can build on, let's go. So
Absolutely.
I mean, that's all I have. Is there anything you wanted to do to close out the conversation? Anything you wanted to say?
No, other than kind of circling back to what we started with, right? um, think bigger, right? Don't think about what you were trained to do just in the military. There are many other opportunities out there that you guys have the skills to fit those needs. And semiconductors done me well. We'd love to have as many interested candidates join. There's going to be plenty of opportunities. But
Yeah,
yeah, think bigger. Don't just think about what you were trained to do in the military. You look at what your skills are, and like I think you mentioned, Justin, when you go into that interview, don't say, "Well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have that." No,
yeah,
no, say what do you have? What do you have to offer? Right? It is
yeah,
a an employee's market right now, right? And you guys have the skills, we have the needs. We just need to figure out how to make that match.
yeah. And on that, kids, focusing on your skill set, right? Be open-minded. You don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And I will say one of my favorite closes to an interview is at the end of the interview, and Mike says, "Hey, Justin, thanks. I've got all the questions answered that I need. Any questions before you end the interview?" I say, "No, Mike, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. I was really excited to have this conversation with you. Now that I've talked to you, I have to say, I think this is the right job for me." So with that being said, I have to ask, is there anything that I said, anything you saw from me today that would stop me from moving forward? Because if so, I want one more shot to win this interview because I think I'm the right person for it. And what you're doing is you're not assuming that you put your best foot forward. You're confirming you put your best foot forward. And I can't tell you how many veterans asked that question to a hiring manager. That manager shot them straight. Hey, you missed this. That veteran was able to overcome that obstacle in that interview and win the job. So for those people that are interviewing now, I highly recommend you practice that out loud in the mirror a few times. And then when you interview with Mike in a few weeks, you use it on him. But
Great.
besides that, this was great. I really enjoyed it. I know we went a little long today, but I think it was really informative. I really hope you enjoyed it, the audience enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it, Justin.
Thanks all. Have a good one.